The next independent place I'm planning to visit is McCormick, South Carolina. However, on the way, out in the middle of nowhere, this time just at the intersection of two highways with pretty much nothing around, I see a Southern Bell phone booth. So let's pick it up. Pretty hummy. Now this is a prepay phone, so I'll have to put in a dime to get a dial tone. But you can tell already, it's a long phone line. It has a 637 number. Let's dial a 637 call. Ha, well, this is obviously a step. And it's funny, the hum on the line that we're hearing now is almost indistinguishable from the dial tone. I mean, this is not a tone. This is just the hum on the line during a time when the power is unbalanced in the CO. We're connected to the first selector, which uses unbalanced power. And when you have a long phone line like this, that makes it hum like crazy. And it sounds not that different from the dial tone. As we get down to the last two digits, the hum will quiet down quite a bit. Wow, this is a hummy line, and it's not well balanced because we are on balanced power. And the hum that remains is the hum that will continue through an actual conversation. Let's finish dialing the number. Ha, that is really something. The line is 12 miles long, and it's got a thing called a range extender with gain, REG, R-E-G. It's coming back to me now that in the early 1990s, Les showed me one of these, and that explains how a lot of these payphone lines that were really long behaved. It is a circuit board designed for a vertical rack mount, and I think that it may just be powered off the 48-volt talk battery that's normally on a phone line. If so, that might explain why at the end of each call from a prepay coin phone, it does this. Obviously, the reg amplifies the sounds on the phone line, and a prepay coin phone has no talk battery in between calls. It's like a dead line if you measure between tip and ring. There's almost no voltage measurable. And so if it's getting its power from the 48 volts that's normally there, as soon as the prepay phone goes idle, there's no more power. And maybe it has a big electrolytic capacitor which keeps the amplification going for a few seconds and then discharges. The other artifact, where there's a burst of loud hum before the dial tone comes on but after the dime, is probably, I'd think, caused by the same phenomenon. Once the dime goes in, there is then power across the phone line. That makes the reg start amplifying again. So for a moment, you have the hum of a line with nothing on it amplified, and then when the dial tone comes on, things kind of normalize. This is a guess on my part, but I would think that that's the reason. Batesburg, the last Bell System payphone we used, had exactly the same phenomenon. Except that on the probable capacitor discharge, it squeaked. Now the dial tone here, this is actually the newer type of Bell System rural CDO dial tone. However, the ring is the old type. Most small Bell System steps either had the old ring and busy or the newer kind. But there were some, such as this one, and also Kent, Connecticut, that had the old ring combined with the new dial tone and busy. I do not know exactly why this was being done, but there probably was a very good utilitarian pragmatic reason for it, amounting to the old tone being somehow inadequate or unreliable. Another place where we would see this is in New York City. There were many step PBXs used in their Centrex CU service, especially in Manhattan, which had real, genuine rural ring just like this office does. But more often than not, these same PBXs would have the new busy signal. Here's an example, as dialed from the West 73rd Street panel in 1976. What kind of busy signal goes with this ring? Well, it's the one we heard back in Batesburg. Now let's call a busy number in this same New York PBX. Old ring with the new busy. And that was the rule in New York rather than the exception. But here's an exception. And that was from one of the relatively few New York Centrexes that had the original rural busy signal. The old busy signal was generated by a rotating device that was subject to certain motor problems, whereas the newer busy signal was generated directly from the 60 Hz power line and never went off frequency. It probably didn't even have any moving parts involved in generating the tone, not even a vibrator. So whatever it was very robust and stable and probably even compact. One thing I do know is that the original rural busy signal was very talkable, as in that. In fact, it tended to be the most talkable busy signal in the entire bell system, while the new rural busy signal was one of the least talkable busies. That may be a factor as well. Had the New York Telephone Company employed the rural type busy signal that went with these rings, in their Centrex CU service, we would have had a plethora of talk lines over busy signals. As it is, there were only a few. And in fact, there was one, which Ben and I first got going in the spring of 1972, that 14 years later was still there. Here's one of our promo announcements from 1972 that we used on that particular conference.
The buzz you are hearing is a busy signal belonging to Chemical Bank in Manhattan. During Chemical Bank business hours, many customers connect to this busy signal because the numbers they are calling are busy. If the line is used during this time, it will create confusion and have it reported. Please do not use the line between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Thank you.
That talkable busy signal never got fixed. It remained talkable. All they did was eliminate the permanent busy number, and that was enough to get it to quiet down. During the years that followed, Ben and I would occasionally call it and talk through it, just for old time's sake. Was I right in 1972 when I said,
If the line is used during this time, it will create confusion.
well, this was recorded in 1978 or 79. Watch what happens when Ben and I start talking on the busy during business hours.
Hello, I'm back.
Hello? Hello? Clearance Ellis? Hello? 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 Yeah, this is Ron States calling. I'm sorry, we have our wires crossed. Hello? 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 Oh, I'm sorry, I have a bad connection. I'll call back. Hello?
The chemical bank busy signal remained intact. The permanent busy numbers were not there until sometime in the 80s they somehow came back. And at that point, no thanks to Ben or me, this talkable busy signal made a public comeback.
7, 1, 2, 7, 9, 8, 1, 3.
And notice there the 718 number, so you know that came from 1984 or later. It was 86. Amazing. The examples I used here are the most talkable there are. Most instances of this busy signal weren't quite that extreme, but in general it was more talkable than any of the other types. Okay, well, back to Edgefield, South Carolina, where I only recorded 5 phone calls. That last Bell System payphone we used at the traffic circle was on a line that was amazingly well balanced. When you got onto a stable call, the background hum was very low. This payphone line, 12 miles long, is not so well balanced. You'll hear how hummy it is while we're talking to the operator, and talking to the operator ought not to be hummy at all. Also notice that when the operator puts the call through, she is using a rotary dial.
Could you get me area code 516-593-9083?
593-5083.
593-9083.
And your number?
637-9916.
You gonna pay here? You want it collect?
I'll pay.
Thank you.
Hello? Operator?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you better make it collect.
Okay, your name?
Mr. Some phony name, just in case this is the same operator center as I got from Saluda.
Is that a payphone we're calling to?
No.
The number you have reached, LY3 9083, has been changed. The new number is area code 212-877-3552 in New York City. Please make a note of it.
You want to try them there, sir?
No, instead of trying them there, try area code 516-767-9970.
May I have it again?
516-767-9970. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I paid them.
You know, this may be the only recording I have of a Bell system cord board where the operator is rotary dialing. I recall in the old days I'd be listening on Bill's other line as he was doing some sort of research involving one inward operator or another, and there were a few times where I would hear him say, "Operator, are you using a rotary dial?" It was just a surprising anachronism, but we would find it, and it had to do with the Bell system not wanting to upgrade to an MF key set in places where they knew the entire cord board was about to be replaced, and that's definitely the case here. This cord board is in Aiken, South Carolina. However, my 1977 documentation says that this board no longer exists, so it is not long for this world. This and other tributaries under Aiken get absorbed into the Columbia sector. No more inward operator in Aiken, and therefore no more cord board. So they knew this board was going to be completely eliminated, and they didn't invest in MF key sets. Let's see what happens if you dial a 1 from this payphone.
Check the number or try your call again. I'm sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or try your call again. I'm sorry, reached a number.
That recording obviously comes off of a standard tape that they're using in South Carolina. I'm sorry to see they're using the new standard text, but post-1975, that's pretty much par for the course. There's one other office that's local from here, Johnston, 275. The 2 will be absorbed. The 7 will put us over on the trunk to Johnston, which will hum less than our local first selector here. The 5 is absorbed over there, and then a 0 is a vacant level, giving us a similar recording, but from Johnston this time.
We're sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or try your call again. We're sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or try your call again. We're sorry.
Once the recording got going, you could hear a little bit of the Q tone from the tape that recording comes off of at the beginning of the announcement, right here.
We're sorry. We're sorry.
Actually, that's probably print through on the tape from the Q tone that's on the tape. Here's a ringing number in Johnston. The first digit absorbs here, the second digit goes to Johnston, the third digit absorbs there. Well, that's it for this stop. There were so few calls because there were only 2 offices local, and frankly, I just wasn't so thrilled about recording hummy rural phone lines. having suffered with one at the commune for parts of 4 years in a row. But in retrospect, I'm kind of enjoying the tape. The next stop is the last stop of the actual phone trip, and it turned out to be very fortunate, because McCormick had an unusual switch that I never thought I would get on tape. So it was a great way to end the trip.